Good morning. This is Santiago coming to you with an update from the firehouse on Lynn Avenue. I've made further progress in clearing out the garage for GSSG to come in. I am behind schedule. I totally didn't anticipate the setbacks. I'm not even sure if setback is the right word, but the delays that I experienced since I got the word to clear the place out and then taking on the amount of stuff that was here. When Margarita and I downsized in, I forget if it was 2016, 2017, it was just before COVID. Actually, we were forced to downsize, like many American families. We took everything we had and brought it here. And in fact, I wasn't even involved in the move because I was so upset because of our inability to come together on a plan on how to keep the house that I said, you know what, fucking throw everything out. I don't want nothing in the house. And if you want the stuff in the house, bring it here. Now, my wife, for whatever reason, did that and basically moved the 3,000 square foot house with a 2-car garage, everything in there, all the equipment and everything that wasn't already here, because some of it was here, mostly the lawn care stuff. She did that and just packed everything and brought it here. And from 2017 or 2018, whenever that was, I never even looked at the stuff. I mean, I saw it. It was all around here. You may have seen some previous videos of all the stuff that was here. At least half of that was mine. And I'm looking through it and I'm finding some stuff and I'm down. Let me give you a quick update here. You can see a lot has been cleared out, right? In the back, that's the last stuff that's remaining. And let me show you this, right? So this was all full of shelves across there, all the way. There was 3 more rows of shelves just like that of stuff. And I call it stuff because, you know, it's some things that people would say, Santiago, why are you keeping that? Throw that shit away. That's from when you was in high school. This was Margarita's office area. Nice size office she had here in the garage. But it was all full of stuff. Now it's down to that mannequin, that beautiful coffee table, which we're not getting rid of. Those 2 shelves are my stuff, but you can see I've been picking through it and getting stuff off. The way I see it is probably I'll be done with getting everything out of here and moved up. So I'll be done with this third, right, from basically this door back by tomorrow. I'll have everything out. Margarita's coffee table, the 2 book racks I have, the rug. This will all be cleared out. This is gone. The sofa's staying another day or 2. Somebody's coming with a pickup and they're gonna help me move it to another property. This coffee table was just a big gathering place of shit that I used to just not put away, and it was a big pile of stuff, but you can see it's down. There were 3 piles of records. Margarita has, I know some of the records are mine, but those records go back to like 1976 when I was a teenager, maybe even earlier than that. And maybe they're my records, maybe they were her records. They're all mixed up, but we've got this beautiful record collection. And one of the things I wanted to show you was, why would somebody store this stuff? And I wonder if you guys have had something like this. And I'm not going to throw this out. These are maps. Back in the days before GPS, you needed maps. And if you were an adventurer like me and Margarita, New York City and vicinity, what year is that? Including Long Island, 295, AAA. This is Reading area, PA. This is Rhode Island, my friend in Rhode Island when I would go visit her. Upper Bucks County, we lived in Upper Bucks County. Ah, here it is. This is the oldest map. I was wondering if I still had this. This map I may have bought when I was 16 years old. New York City pocket map. Manhattan, Brooklyn, you can see it's held together with duct tape, like a good Puerto Rican does. And I know there are streets on here that probably aren't on there. The World Trade Center is on there, so this has to be from the 70s. 1971. 1971. And World Trade is on here? Somebody gave me some directions. I'm looking to see. No, that's too little. I can't see on there. Here. It does say World Trade Center and Battery Park City, so that was already planned out. It must have been on the drawing board already. And what I would do is, since I traveled all over the city by subway, I had this thing to help me get directions. And then when Margarita came to New York, and then the next oldest map, this is probably one of the oldest, $1.99. I bought this, again, with the duct tape, because you use these things so much. And this was the whole United States, right? So we would do long distance driving into New Jersey. Here, where's that section? Here's New York. See, New York always had New York State is like 3 pieces. Upper New York, all the way to Canada. Here's New Jersey. New Jersey was one I looked at a lot. And, you know, it doesn't serve a purpose. You got GPS. Everybody has GPS. But I bet if I asked Margarita, do you want to throw that out? Because it doesn't take that much space, maybe we'll keep it. Maybe someday there won't be GPS. You know, everybody talks about, you know, AI and everything. We might have to shut it down. And if you shut it down, the person with the information holds the power. I'm going to have all the power. People are going to say, how do you get around? Santiago? I says, well, for a small fee, bring me a couple of ears of corn, a small basket of tomatoes, and I'll route the path out for you. And I'll show you how to get there. So, you know, here, something else happens to be, this is some of the oldest stuff was on these shelves. All right, I still have VHS videos, old CDs, but this Amplex tape, 40-minute tape, audio tape, meaning I believe each side is 20 minutes. It says on the side, guitar, Barracuda. If that's the song I think it is that's on there. Could have been 20 minutes. There must have been some other information. Here goes Pink Floyd. It says Miller Wings, but I think that was supposed to be Wings Over America. Look at this thing. This is a 90-minute video. Look how cool they were. It was a little case. All your music. Yeah, it says Pink Floyd on there. Now that I'm looking at it, that's not my hands writing. Miller, probably the Steve Miller Band and Wings. Anybody remember Wings Over America? That was Paul McCartney's group after he left the Beatles, right? This stuff is from the 70s, and I have a tape player. I'm gonna see if I can play it. Here goes, this wasn't my handwriting, but somebody made this tape for me. Grace Jones, Deborah Laws. This probably came from somebody. They either gifted it to me or I don't know, because I know that's not my handwriting. This was Rebirth of Style. Oh, these were the mixtapes we used to get up in the Poconos. There was this dude that used to sell mixtapes. And if it's the one I think, I mean, shit, you play that, you get everybody dancing. Oh, my head. I hit my head. These cases were very popular, right? And this is how we used to carry our cassette tapes, right? So if I'm going on a trip, I'd pack a little thing like this. And I actually have 2 others, which I put away already. Or, check this out. You bought these tabletop kind of with drawers, and it's got the tapes in there. Billy Joel, The Cars, Fleetwood Mac, Phil Collins, Tracy Chapman, Fine Young Cannibals, Genesis, right? Genesis, Invisible Touch. Then some tapes there. You don't throw them out if you don't have the case, you just store them. I'll bet you these are playable. You know, at some point I'm gonna play them, and if I could transfer them to digital, that's what I'll do. And then down here, here when you got blank, oh, sometimes you lose your boxes. Well, you get a pack of empty boxes. Here goes another style of carrying, you know, a little zipper all the way around. Let me see if I can do this with one hand. This is the oldest stuff, me and Margarita's. Easily goes back to the 70s. I could tell this isn't mine, but it's got Stevie Nicks, Richard Marx, John Cicada, Genesis again. All those Genesis must have been Margarita. Now here, this is a Maxwell case that would come with blank tapes, whatever it is, 15, 20. Right? There it says, can you see that? I don't know if you can see that. Ansbach, 1980. I made that tape in 1980 when I was living in Ansbach. Then it says West Germany, Kraftwerk. Disco 14, Disco 12, Jazz 9. That's how I used to, Disco number 1. Oh my God, to listen to that Disco number 1. And then WKTU was the local New York City station that had the cool music that I used to listen to. So I'm like, could I just throw it out? You know, people say, just throw that shit out. What the fuck you want with that? Well, first of all, I'm fortunate that the way I've rolled over the years and being an investor, it allowed me to find this building. Look at the size of this thing. And there's my American flag, baby. That American flag will hang wherever I rest my head. That's the way it is. That's the way we roll. Let me get that better in the shot. Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff going on in our government at this time. You know, I'm one of those that I appreciate the government and what they do for me. And I stay out of their way. I don't want to ruffle any feathers. If I need to protest, I'll protest. I've gone to protests down in Washington, D.C. Even as a kid in the 60s. I remember my mother took me from New York City. You know, it could have been Martin Luther's speech. It could have been Robert Kennedy. It could have been Kennedy. I don't know. I was very young, 7 or 8 years old. So that would have been 67, 68. Whatever was going down, the freedom rides. I don't know. I never saw any riots. My mother never took me to anything like that. And it's a terrible thing that what we're experiencing. And there's a lot of people that are very unhappy about what's going on. But I'm trying to make the best of it. And I encourage others, you need to try to make the best of it. If you focus, I'm not paying attention every minute of every day, but probably every day, every other day, I do check in on what the current president is doing, what the last president was doing, what they were saying about the Democratic president, what was positive about that Democratic president, what might be positive about the current president, which there's a few things that he did that I might agree with, but there's a lot, you know, his wanting to take control of everything. That never works out. That's communism. Communism is you got one guy on top, Putin, and he's in charge of everything, and everybody does whatever he wants. And he's going to drive his country into the ground. You know, they're going to go through difficult times, but that's part of the human experience. Our country has been on top for, 70 years, 80 years, and maybe it's time for us to pass the torch to Europe, or who the hell knows. But the freedom that we've had to create, right? If we have a mess, we made this mess. But if we made the mess, I believe we can clean it up. And there are people that are maybe a little smarter than me, maybe more ambitious than me, that'll figure out a way to make it happen. All I know is business. All I want to do is business. I'm only happy when I'm doing business. And business to me is not making $1 million. It's making a life that's comfortable, that I can participate with other Americans that are thinking along the lines of I am and says, you know, there's a whole bunch of shit going on in the world. What can we do to make the best of it? And somebody came to me and said, Santiago, I got an idea. The only thing is, you got to empty all that crap. He told me throw it out. He brought me a dumpster. That's what that dumpster is outside. I may have shown some pictures. If you didn't, there's a dumpster outside. I filled that damn thing up in 2-3 days. And there was still, from the 2-3 days of filling it up, I had it like 2/3 filled. I was running out of space, and I was running out of stuff to throw out because I'm like, okay, what am I keeping? And he would come by and say, Santiago, there's no progress. I don't see what you're doing. I said, listen, bro. And I apologized to him. I said, I didn't realize, because I didn't pack the stuff in here. You understand? I don't know where the hell I was when it all went down because I wasn't working a regular corporate job. I don't know what the fuck I was doing. I was dazed out. I went to the court case where we lost possession of the house. So technically it was a downsize, but it wasn't the kind of downsize that I would have recommended because my wife and I couldn't agree, and we lost a fortune. And then I divested myself of my 401k, which had a good amount of money, in order to save the house, and we lost that too. So total losses over the last 5 years were significant. It's really, it almost put me out of action, but it didn't, because there was enough residual income that kept me afloat. But now I'm at the end. I can't manage. I can't borrow any more money. There's nothing I can do. I've never filed for bankruptcy, and I'm not even thinking of it, although I qualify. I'm sure I qualify. But I don't want to lose my assets. People that know me locally know I have a good handful of assets, and I'm in a great town, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. It was the perfect move for me. I love it here. I love it here. And it's people that I've met along the way that are coming out. Now I'm meeting new people, also investors like me. Some are doing financially better than me. But I've got a good relationship with my wife. I have a decent relationship with two of my granddaughters. I have another grandson that's reaching out to me, the youngest one from Daniel's side. I hear from my son Daniel every so often. And I have my wife. And Margarita is number one. She makes, what is that saying? I gotta think. I'm drawing a blank, but that's okay. If I think of it later, I'll edit this video and I plug in what I wanted to say. But she's the one that makes this work. Together, it's like on the tip of my tongue. She helps me make this work. I like I said, 4 or 5 years ago when I said, fuck it, I didn't even go back to the house. I don't remember going back to the house. She just moved everything. I went back to the house afterwards because there was a couple of things I wanted to make sure that were picked up. But when the house was empty, I'm like, fuck, where's everything? I put it in the garage. This is what we call it the garage, but it's a warehouse. But it's time to move on. And I showed you some stuff. I mean, shit, I'm not going to throw that stuff out. And I asked Margarita, what do you want to do with the audio tapes? You want to take it to, I'm using another house for storage too, because the stuff I kept, how much? I don't know. Books is a big deal. We have a lot of books. And we can't throw them out because we're educational like that. We not only do we learn from the books, but we teach from the books. We teach from the information we learn. And we build a community. So that's where we're at. I can't believe I'm 21 minutes talking. It's easy for me to talk. I talk from the heart. I hope this connects with somebody. And if you're local in the Bethlehem area and you want to connect with me and you want to build business, 2025 and moving forward, fuck what happens in Washington, and not fuck what happens there, because we can't have that. But I vote, and I'll continue to vote. And the power is in the vote. And everyone that doesn't like what's happening, make sure that in the next election cycle you vote. Because what happens in Washington, D.C., what happens at the state capitol is based on how we vote. That's it. That's your only power. That's your only power. And if you're for Trump, vote for Trump. But if you vote for Trump, you're going to suffer like the rest of us if he does things that aren't to our benefit, and you're going to gain from the things that are to our benefit. But there's more of a mess there than positivity. Biden was old, and we worried about him walking up and down the stairs. And at his age, I don't climb up ladders, not alone. I have to have somebody nearby that if something happens to me, they can call for help, because that's, when you're over 65, that's one sure way to die, is fall off the ladder, fall off the roof. But the economy was good. I was in business, but I'm still in business. In fact, it's getting better. Is it because of Trump? No, it's because we're Americans and we're in the United States, and the United States has a way of working through it. The farmers will work through it. The city people will work through it. The Wall Street workers will work through it. The government workers will work through it. Some people are retiring. Some people are starting their careers. And I talk with all of those. People starting their careers, people starting their businesses, and people retiring and saying, what's next? Well, for me, what's next is what I said in my last video. 65, I'm young for 65. I got another 30 years ahead of me. So if it's going to be anything like the last 30 years, I've had a blast. I think it's great. And I've had difficult times financially. I just said that. I could file for bankruptcy today, right now. Bankruptcy protection. But I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it because then a lot of what I got in the process, things I got in the works, ain't going to work out the way I want them to. So let me leave it there. Peace.